You're watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry ChillyBoy Chillson, and this is my ranking of every animated film I saw in 2024. Now, before we get into this ranking, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. So we have survived another year, both on this planet and in the world of film. Take that as you will. But of course, that means here on ChillyBoy Productions, we're going to take a look back at every animated film from the year. Now, of course, I wasn't able to see every animated film that came out in 2024, but I did end up with a nice list of 20. And overall, I'd say it was a pretty good year for animation by and large. I didn't hate any animated movie I watched this year. I actually thought they all were okay at worst, up to really, really good. So, spoiler alert for my worst of the year list coming up. No animated movies were bad enough to make it onto that list this year. Now, you all might have a certain animated film in mind that probably should make that list, but I'm gonna say it right now up front. I did not watch the Megamind sequel. It went straight to streaming, a really weird, odd release from DreamWorks, and I heard it was absolutely terrible. So we can assume it would be probably about last place here on the list, but no, I did not subject myself to that Megamind film. Also, I put it up to Twitter on BlueSky, and I went back and forth on whether to include it or not. However, I decided not to include Mufasa, the Lion King. On an intellectual level, I fully understand it's an animated film. Many people consider 2019 Lion King the highest grossing animated film. I was not on board with that either. But by principle and by logic, it is still trying to emulate being a live action film. So, for all intents and purposes, it wants to be live action. It doesn't want to be animated. And I know Barry Jenkins even said it's animated, but I decided to make my own call and just not include it. I don't like including those animated live action movies on my ranking. So you won't see those two films here. And of course, just remember this is only my own personal ranking, how I enjoyed these films. Your ranking will likely be much different, and I can't wait to see how you'd rank all of the animated films in that comment section. So, yes, we have 20 films to get through, so why don't we cut the chit chat and jump into the ranking? So, coming in at 20, aka my least favorite animated film of the year, I have Thelma the Unicorn from Netflix Animation. I just didn't really vibe with the film by and large. I found our main character to be kind of irritating. I found a lot of her choices to be a little bit irritating. The character designs, outside of Thelma being this cute little pony unicorn, all the rest of the designs were really off-putting. Like that narwhal. Whew. Nightmare fuel. The singing, particularly for Thelma, was good. However, the songs themselves were all less than memorable. This just was kind of an irritating film to sit through by and large that had a decent enough message, but it wasn't worth getting through all the nonsense for a message that we've already heard. Coming in at number 19, I have Despicable Me 4. I know this franchise has a ton of fans. The Minions have a legion of fans, clearly. They just really struggle to win me over. And specifically, over the last several installments, it feels like several episodes of television that they just mushed together. And that was the case here yet again. Like the superhero minions, what really was their purpose? It was like a completely different story set off to the side that would have probably been better for Minions 3. Some of the stuff with Gru was nice. Some of the stuff about the parenting, once again, and the family aspect was nice. However, our villain, once more, was very strange, actually. It was a very weird villain for this film. It all just felt like a big, jumbled mess that didn't utilize the different individual parts to create an actual cohesive story. 18, I have Dragon Keeper, and I actually was really excited for this film. I love dragons, and I really like this type of mythology-based animation most times, but I just found the lead girl to be irritating. That honestly is what sank this whole film for me. Now, the animation itself is a little bit under-rendered, but you can give that a pass to some more indie style animation, but it doesn't dive into the mythology. It doesn't give us that good cultural experience you'd hope for. Our side characters are also pretty annoying. Our side characters are all either really bland or just straight up annoying. Our villain is pretty annoying, but yeah, it just can't. But really, it cannot overcome a lead character that gets on your nerves the majority of the runtime. At number 17, I have That Christmas, another film that feels like several different stories put together to mash into a single film. Oh, that actually is the case with this one. Honestly, if this had just focused in on the boy who was living with a single mom who was working and he had this bond with his teacher who also was alone on Christmas, if that had been our main storyline that we really honed in on, I think this would have been really good because that storyline was really good. However, that's just one piece of the pie. We also have these twin sisters. We also have these kids who are trying to make a new tradition of Christmas. And then we have their parents who are awkwardly stuck on top of a flipped van on a frozen lake. And none of those other storylines are nearly as interesting, nearly as heartfelt. Almost none of the humor lands for me. The characters are all very generic. And we kick it off with a horrible play with a very confusing message right from the get-go. So that Christmas will not be making its way into my annual holiday rotation. At number 16, I have the Garfield movie. Now, if we had just done a Garfield movie, I think this would have been pretty solid, to be honest, particularly if we had just spent some more time with baby Garfield, baby Odie. Oh, my heart would have sang. They were so adorable, just so cute. Perfect. And honestly, even when we're just at home with Garfield, doing Garfield things, it's kind of fun. But then the film just flies off the rails. It decides to be this spy action espionage movie with Garfield's dad, played by Samuel Jackson, this horrible villain, voiced by Hannah Waddingham, this cat that I couldn't stand, this weird bull subplot. You have Garfield being an action star, once again voiced by Chris Pratt, who doesn't give you any of the like grumpy, grumbling Garfield that you want and need. Next time, go back to the drawing board and just give us a Garfield movie. That's what we really want. At number 15, I have Spy X Family Code White. So don't kill me. I know that this franchise has mega fans, people that love this. And I can see why, just based on the film. It was fun. I had a good time with it by and large. However, I just was missing a lot, and some of the characters didn't quite make sense to me. Some of the stuff that was happening didn't quite make sense to me. Honestly, I saw this because they decided to show it as a mystery movie. So I didn't actually know I was going in to watch this film. I'm not positive I would have because I've never viewed the series before. I actually didn't even know it was a series before watching. But I really like the little girl. I really like the dog, of course. But I was so out of the loop on particularly the romantic drama and relationship between our two lead adult characters. The whole villain subplot was a little bit to me overall. The animation was nice. It's fun enough, but I just was way out of the loop. Number 14, I have Spellbound. Oh, I wanted to love this. And at times, I did really enjoy it. Particularly, I love the final messaging of the film. I think it's a very healthy message that so many kids are going to be able to relate to. I come from a divided family and didn't have a little nuclear family at home by any means. And I think it's a great message that this film ends up giving for kids that have to go through that and maybe need to find a way to process it. I also did really enjoy our lead character. I enjoy a good fantasy land, though I don't think this one is all that well thought out or fleshed out. And I particularly love that we had like this openly just gay fantasy couple in here that are clearly these gay married men voiced by queer actors, especially in the face of everything else happening. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, the story itself was quite weak for me. The songs did not need to be here. This shouldn't have been a musical. Our side characters are quite irritating, and the animation itself was not up to snuff. I really hated the character designs on the two monsters we're following, her parents. Oh, I don't know what was going on there. Overall, a film that had a lot of promise bubbling under the surface, but was never able to bring that to the forefront in a fulfilling fashion. At number 13, I have Moana 2. This definitely takes the cake for most disappointing animated film of 2024 because I absolutely adore Moana. And I've been dying for a sequel and to get to be with these characters again. And they released this supposed to be TV series turned film into theaters to meh results. And meh following amazing just doesn't cut it. The songs here are bland for the most part. I enjoyed like two of them while watching. I can only sing back one of them. I do think Beyond is actually quite good overall, so I'll give it that. The animation is stunning once more, though I don't think it improves on Moana's animation from nearly a decade ago. Ali Carvalho and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, particularly, are once again really fantastic as the characters, and you can just feel their love for these characters. And I appreciate this film once more just giving us the culture. Unfortunately, the story itself is a lesser than rehash in many ways of the first film. Our side characters are not really offensively bad or annoying by any means, but they're just there. Honestly, it feels like we probably could have just gotten away with Maui, Moana, Pua, and Hey Hey again. We didn't need these new characters. It has some heart in that final act, but my goodness, it has none for the first two, and it just rehashes, like literally takes word for word several jokes from that first film and just plops them in here again. It feels completely devoid of actual inspiration for the characters in the world that this series deserved. At number 12, I have Orion and the Dark. So there's so much here that I do love. Particularly, I love embracing the dark, obviously, and everything that had to come with that message. Really learning to appreciate something that scares you, learning to appreciate something for its purpose and learning about that purpose, I think is a really important message, and the film handles that beautifully. Really, everything to do with Orion and Dark is wonderful. I think that connection is really something special in the film. Unfortunately, it jumps off the ledge in truly Kaufman style with a multi-timeline storyline in the third act that goes completely off the rails for me. I think that third act sunk the film because before then I was on board. I was vibing, even with the storybook aspect, with the father telling the daughter his story. Okay, I can get on board with that. But then we stretch it to even further, crazier lengths. We're literally time traveling through the sacred timeline. It got too ridiculous, and then that final scene I just wasn't on board with either. But the first two acts of the film have so much goodness to them, so much good animation, some beautiful, stunning set pieces here. If only we had stuck the landing. If only Kaufman hadn't tried to go full on existential there at the end, I think we could have really had something special. So at number 11, I have The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. Now, this one is kind of crazy to be included here, but they were sending it out in full mass for awards consideration. They have really been pushing this film. So I was able to screen it even though it's not getting its actual theatrical release here in the United States until late February. So expect my full review for this film early February. But overall, it's just a fun time. It's a fun Looney Tunes movie. I wish there were more tunes in this film other than just Porky Pig and Daffy Duck for the most part. But it's fun. It's hijinks, it's ridiculous, and it'll be nice to have 2D animation getting a wide release on the big screen once again. So, kicking off the top 10 here on the list, our upper half of animated films, I have The Color Within. Another film that is not actually getting its full release in the United States until 2025. However, G Kids was pushing this for award season, so once again, I got to view it in 2024. And I thought this was solid. I think the animation is really beautiful with The Color Within. I really enjoy the ideas here, particularly around found family and outsiders finding their people. Unfortunately, another case of I found our lead character to be a little bit off-putting. She's not annoying, but she's a little bit weird and not in the most endearing way for about half the film. I also don't think they do enough with her and her seeing colors within people. And I think we could have done with at least two more scenes of our band, the three kids in that trio, together, bonding, so that that final emotion really hits home. It's a pretty anime that has nice enough themes and messages, but it just doesn't hold a candle to some of the fantastic anime we've gotten over the past decade or so. At number 9, I have The Lord of the Ring, The War of the Rohirrim. Speaking of anime, I did not anticipate getting an anime version of The Lord of the Rings to the big screen this year, but here we are. WB had to keep those rights, eh? Honestly, I thought this was pretty solid. I see a lot of people really hate it. I see a lot of people are upset that we're focusing on this kind of no-named character. Which, to be honest, I'm never going to really side with anti-woke people, but I think it's actually pretty valid for them to be upset that we're focusing on a not named character from a book. Just my 2 cents. But as it is, I actually enjoyed the story that we were told. I really enjoyed the characters in the film. A lot of people are saying they're really stock characters. And particularly our villain, I think there was a great case to be made for him, Wolf, in this movie. Unfortunately, he gets real cartoony, like over the top style anime villain, actually. And I wish we would have dialed it back just a touch. But I liked our lead character. I liked her family. I felt the emotions that came with losing members of her family, losing her people. I thought the animation was nice, though sometimes it felt very much under-rendered, which I then heard they underpaid and overworked these animation studios that they like slopped together to make this. So thank you for your work, and I'm sorry for your treatment. But I think the fantasy nerd in me just has a good time with stories like this. Simple as that. And again, at number 8, I have Kung Fu Panda 4. So once again, the Kung Fu Panda series delivers another really solid, fun film. I just happen to feel that this is definitively the weakest in the Kung Fu Panda series, and by a pretty decent margin. I just feel the villain was a little bit underwhelming. Aquafina's new character is fine, I guess, but it really feels awkward and weird that we have this need of an army and a need for all of these fighters to come together, and we aren't able to call on the literal 5-person army we've grown to know and love in the other 3 films. What? The animation looks great, particularly given the fact that they cut down so much on the budget. It looked amazing. I still love Poe as a character. I particularly loved his bond with his dads in this film and their little side quests. It's another fun adventure with Poe, just not quite as great as the other 3 we've been given. Building its way up to number 7, I have Piece by Piece, the Pharrell Williams Lego documentary that I actually was not looking forward to seeing. I thought it was very strange. I didn't understand the purpose. I still don't really know who this was made for because kids who want to go watch a Lego movie certainly don't care about learning about Pharrell Williams, I'll tell you that. And Pharrell Williams fans, I guess, will go watch it because they like the artist, but I'm not sure they're all that interested in seeing it in Lego form. I actually ended up enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would. Clearly, it's up here at number 7. This format of Legos actually invigorated the talking head personal biopic so much. It gave me stuff to look at throughout instead of just stock footage and people in interviews. I thought the animation, once again, was a lot of fun. The Legos looked great. It gave us the fantastical moments. It allowed us inside of Pharrell Williams' head through Legos in a really fun way to visualize the narrative that was being spoken to us. I don't think it necessarily goes as deep as I would have liked for Pharrell and given us some answers on that breakup with the Neptunes. And the actual content on the page is your standard personal biopic. But thankfully, the Legos really brought it to life in a fun way. So, transforming their way into the number 6 position, we have Transformers 1. Oh, this trend over at Paramount of taking a property, a beloved property, that Michael Bay ran hard into the ground and giving them the animation treatment to reinvigorate them. Oh, it's worked out beautifully. First with TMNT last year, and now with Transformers 1. Because once again, this animated version of these characters is one of the best we've gotten to date. I really enjoyed this origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron, their friendship, this like friends to enemies storyline that we get. I really enjoyed it. Particularly, I just liked when they were friends, to be honest. Because I do think one of the big downfalls of the film, Megatron's turn is too dramatic and fast. But other than that, I think the story itself is a lot of fun. I loved BB-8. I love the new Scarlett Johansson bot. The voice cast was all fantastic. Chris Hemsworth in his first voice role was great. ScarJo was wonderful. Keegan-Michael Key was, well, himself, but it worked really well for Bumblebee. And then the standout by far was Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron. I thought he was fantastic in this film. Easily the best vocal performance in the film. The animation was great. It was really smooth, but had that old school kind of feel. It had a unique look to it that I really appreciated. And that third act, the hero moment for Optimus, if you will, was amazing. Oh, beautiful. The score was fantastic. It's just a lot of fun. So, kicking off our top 5, I have Memoir of a Snail. So, I was hearing so many amazing things about this film. I was hearing it's kind of dark, made for adults, which obviously made me very excited for it. However, the animation style made me nervous right from seeing that trailer. And that kind of balances out how I felt about the film. Overall, I did really enjoy it, particularly how it all comes together in the end is this amazing blend of depression and sadness. You feel as though you're headed towards some sort of hopelessness, but then hope blooms out in the most beautiful way, in a really authentic fashion, actually, that I very much enjoyed. And that's kind of the balance of this film by and large, is we have a lot of very depressing moments. This is the depressing life we're following, full of heartache and disappointment, trauma, that has sprinkles of hope and levities thrown in that I really enjoyed. I think it's actually the screenplay itself, by and large, is beautifully done. And I will say, I think we delve off into one or two extra areas of exploration, particularly fetishism and fetishism in that sense. I don't know that that was necessarily needed. And I think that's ultimately what kept the film from moving up to that number 4 spot because I was really bouncing these two back and forth. Plus, while the animation is beautifully crafted, sometimes these really off-putting stop motion animation. Sometimes these really off-putting stop motion animated films, well, put me off. I have trouble fully connecting with them because they are animated in a way that is meant to be ugly, and they succeed. But thankfully, the heart of this film is anything but ugly, and that's what really sings through by the end. So at number 4, I have Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. So we got Wallace and Gromit back with a new feature-length film on Netflix, and it is an absolute joy. I adored everything about this film. It delivered exactly what I want from a Wallace and Gromit adventure. The animation is absolutely beautiful. Our characters move with such wonderful fluidity. They're adorable. The relationship between Wallace and Gromit, one, leading to the big problem here, but two, also coming together and having this really nice growth, gave the film so much heart. Feathers McGraw coming back, once again, iconic as always. And I actually liked the little gnome. I thought he was going to be annoying and I would hate him. I actually thought he was fantastic and a really great foil to the film by and large. It has that wonderful British humor that you've come to expect with this sense of warmth that hugs you in a fun story that just delivered everything I had hoped for in the best possible way. So coming in at number 3, I have Flow. Oh, another placement that was really, really difficult. These top 3 films, I think, are all very exceptional, and I had a very difficult time deciding which order to place them in. Ultimately, at number 3, I settled on this beautiful, independent foreign film. What a daring choice to give us this animated movie about animals that has no spoken English dialogue. Or spoken dialogue of any language outside of meows and barks, little chirps and noises that animals make in nature. The animation is distinct and beautiful. I love the style of the animals set against this more realistic looking backdrop. I think they actually blend it fantastic. I think the blending of the two is actually really fantastic. We don't need dialogue here because our characters are all so expressive and they communicate to the audience very well throughout the entire runtime without feeling too personified. They act like their actual animal counterparts in most fashions. Now, I don't know too many capybaras or herons that can navigate a boat this efficiently, but otherwise. And then we get into this beautiful existential spiritualism every now and then within this film that doesn't feel out of place. It feels earned. It's stunning, it's beautiful, it's adorable. In this case, I am happy to just go with the flow. So coming in at number 2, my runner-up position, I have Inside Out 2. So, as somebody who absolutely adores Inside Out, it's one of my top 5 favorite Pixar films. I was both very, very excited for this film, but also had that sense of nervousness. But thankfully, this sequel delivered everything I needed to get over that nervousness. I loved Inside Out 2. Now, for me personally, I don't think it's quite as strong as the original film, but regardless, it's still pretty amazing. Introducing anxiety specifically was the move to do for this film. It hit home on so many levels, not only for me, but I know for a lot of folks out there. The voice cast is all fantastic. Once more, we have these big truth bombs that are just dropped into this animated film from Pixar. The emotions run high, they run heavy. A lot of the plot is similar to the first film getting booted from headquarters and just trying to get your way back there before all goes wrong with Riley. However, I actually think the way it's handled, and particularly the final ascension back to headquarters, is so poignant and beautiful. I think most of the humor works quite well. Most of the emotional moments work really well. All of the character work is fantastic. It just feels like such a perfect continuation to the story of Inside Out. And then finally, my number one, my pick for the best animated film of 2024 is The Wild Robot. Yeah, they got me. They suckered me in with this beautiful story. Ultimately, what put The Wild Robot above Inside Out 2 and Flow when I was balancing these three films, all of which easily could have found their way to the top of this list, is that I think The Wild Robot just puts everything together so beautifully. It has the innovative animation. I got to hear them speak about the animation at Comic-Con, how they blended in actual water painting and the actual paintings and drawings, and how they were able to blend that into the 3D animated style of the film itself. And it sings off the screen. The animation is absolutely stunning, probably my favorite actual animation of 2024. Then we have the voice work. It's so good from top to bottom. Lupita Nyong'o and Kit Connor are amazing. Pedro Pascal is fantastic. Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill, is unrecognizable in the film. Then we have the stellar original score that is one of, if not my favorite, top three favorite original scores of 2024. The music absolutely blew me away watching this film. And then the story. This beautiful story, once more, of family, of motherhood, of unity, working together. There wasn't a dry eye in the theater when I saw this. Tugged at the heartstrings in the most effective ways possible. Honestly, who doesn't love a boy and his robot story? And who doesn't love a boy and his animal story? This blends those together. Instead, we have a robot learning her place in the world with her duckling. Robot and her duckling learning to accept themselves, and they do so in such a beautiful fashion. It hit me in the feels in a way none of the other animated films on this list were able to, and it was the one that had me just thinking about it constantly after walking out of that movie theater. So, for that, it is my favorite animated film of 2024, and honestly, one of my favorite films in general for the year. So that was my ranking for every animated film I saw in 2024. I'm so excited to hear everybody else's ranking of all the animated films you saw this past year. So make sure to respectfully leave those either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up over on Blue Sky with those rankings. And if you enjoyed this ranking and liked this video and you love animation content, I do a ton of animation content, constantly fighting for more respect for animation. If you're in that fight with me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And of course, if you like the video, it helps me out greatly. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.